Hi, welcome to Nonprofit Fundraising with City Vision University. My name is Andrew Sears, and I'm the president of City Vision University. And I'm the course designer for this course, but you're going to be working with other faculty for this course. So let me just tell you what the outcomes are. And outcomes in a course are basically saying, what you should be able to do after you complete this course. So we want to help you be able to articulate a philosophy or theology of fundraising, write something called a case for support for a nonprofit organization, to segment donors and design strategies for different categories of donors: core donors, impulse donors, new donors, major gifts, planned giving, and capital campaigns. And then to develop a fundraising activity plan, including personal, phone solicitation, direct response, digital fundraising, and special events. And then all that's going to culminate in a comprehensive fundraising development plan for your nonprofit organization. So let me give you what the course outline is. So this is an 8-week course, and we're going to go through, start you off talking about how development and fundraising really is a ministry. You're trying to minister to those who are giving to you. And then we're going to get into some of the core concepts. So describe what a case for support is, describe the fundraising cycle and an organizational gift profile for an organization. And then we're going to go into some of the details of the plan. So the fundraising plan, core donors, impulse donors, new donors, get into donor segmentation, major gifts, planned gifting, capital campaign. And then we're going to get into what people call the art of solicitation and specific fundraising activities, how the stuff's done. And then we're going to go into a management and evaluation plan for development. And then the final project is in week 8. Now, let me tell you what the educational philosophy of this course is. So educators use something called Bloom's taxonomy. And the idea is you start at the base and then you move up. So you start, and the first thing that we're going to do in the course is we're going to start with the base of the pyramid. So you're going to go through content, and part of our philosophy is we try to reinforce content retention through having you do both reading and videos where possible. So often this is done in a live class. You'll see lectures, and that will reinforce what you read in the book. So in this case, we're going to have you do reading and videos. I get it that some people prefer reading, some people prefer videos, but regardless of what you prefer, it can be helpful to have both to complement each other to help you retain more. So then we build on that, and we're going to have you do executive summaries. So executive summaries can feel like you're just doing grunt work. But the point is, by actually going through and trying to summarize what you learned, and I would encourage you, as you go through the content, take notes. Take notes on your computer, take notes and write them down, and that's going to help reinforce the learning, and then you can put that into the executive summary. It's a lot harder to summarize something than it is to take notes. And the idea is we're going to be giving you some assignments that are actually really hard. And it's at the top of Bloom's taxonomy, which generally means that you need to be a senior in a bachelor's program or a master's student to be able to do this type of project. But to do there, we're essentially giving you steps in the ladder. So we're going to say, start off summarizing what you learned. Then we're going to give you opportunities to apply it through the discussion forums and through minor assignments. And then all that's going to build into each week. You're going to be contributing, at least in most weeks, an item towards the fundraising plan. And we're using something called constructionist learning because we found that most adults like to learn by doing and learning by building. So that's the basic philosophy for this course. Now, in the next part, what I want to do is I want to get into some of the details. So first of all, there's 2 books in this course. One's a standard textbook, probably one of the most widely used textbooks for fundraising. But we also wanted to provide a lot of Christian integration. So the Development 101 course Development 101 book is written by John Frank, and he actually helped us in designing this course initially. And he's been faculty with us. He's written like 10 books, consulted to over 75 organizations, really, really experienced. I didn't ask him how much money he's helped raise, but my guess is probably in the hundreds of millions. And he has the book, very practical, probably the best I've read. But he also provides the core lectures. So I'm going to do a couple introduction lectures in this, but he's going to be providing the core lectures in some interviews that I did with him, and he presents on those. So this first week, the major project is, what is your philosophy or theology of fundraising? So we'll flesh that out in the assignment description. One of the other things you're going to need to do is select a nonprofit organization. If you're already at a nonprofit, I would encourage you to use that, or if you're at a church. But you really need to be at a larger nonprofit that actually has a fundraising plan, that you're not just getting grants, that you have a significant number of individual donors. So if you're at a nonprofit that doesn't have that, you might see if you can find one that you can work with. Now, I get that that's really hard. This might be one of the hardest aspects of this course for you if you don't have a nonprofit. Everyone's busy with COVID. No one wants you to come visit their nonprofit. So just offer to do this all over the phone, one. Two, offer to serve them. Say, if you give me a little bit of time and, we ask that you provide, they give you one big interview, and it could be, handled by email. They could respond to your questions by email. And then you might have a couple follow-up interviews. And if you have a hard time finding it, I would say, if you've called 50 organizations in your city or in your town, and all the nonprofits tell you that they aren't going to work with you, then you can come talk to us. But honestly, you're supposed to spend 17 hours per week on the course, and in week one, that's going to be one of your biggest tasks. So if you spend, 5 or 8 hours calling nonprofits trying to find someone that will work with you, then that's time well spent. Now, the other thing about contacting these organizations, some of you who aren't at a nonprofit, we try to design our courses so that you can network with others and you can learn from others. And if you do a good job on this project, then maybe you could be demonstrating that you could be a good candidate for them to hire. And if nothing else, it's another organization you develop a relationship with, right? So use that as a networking opportunity. So you're going to have this interview with either an executive director or a development director. So if they have a development director, then try to talk with that person. In smaller organizations, it's usually done by the development director. And we provide a letter, and I'm also going to explain our final project. So the letter that we give to you is something that you can use to email. So, what you would do is, if you don't have an organization, you're going to call these organizations. You're going to say, I'm in a fundraising course, and we have a final project to build a fundraising plan. Could I work with you to help serve your organization by helping build a fundraising plan for your organization? And, then if someone says yes, say, tell me what's your email address, and I'll send you some information. So send them a nice email, and this letter basically is to help establish your credibility and to provide details. So you're going to ask them for certain things. You're going to try to get an information dump from them. So if they have a fundraising plan, have them send the fundraising plan. Now, what you can't do is you can't just take credit for everything in the fundraising plan that they already generated. So you actually have to provide some additional information. I'll get back into some of how our rubric works. But they may have policies on fundraising, they may have sample mailings, brochures, newsletters. So anything you can get from them, try to get that. And then we have a list of interview questions. You could add to this list, but we wanted to cover most of the major topics in the course. If later in the course you realize you didn't cover all these things, you can contact them again, because we may ask some questions in your final project that you need more details. And then you can send this to them. So that is the letter. The other thing is the final project. So this final project, some people are used to writing academic papers. This is not an academic paper. This is a business paper. It should look like how a fundraising plan would look in a nonprofit. So we cover details. We provide some guidelines. So what that means is you don't have to follow APA guidelines for everything, but what you do need to do is you need to use standard business practices. So if you're going to have a reference, you could do like a blog does and include a hyperlink, or you could put in parentheses your source or something. And if you do in parentheses your source, you probably should use APA just so that you're being consistent. But the project summary is, the goal is to develop a fundraising plan. And the idea is all the components of the course are going to fit into this, and over half your grade is going to be in this final project. And there is our rubric in this course. So for most of the assignments, we're going to follow this rubric. So the first priority is essentially a practical assessment. So if I were your executive director, or if someone else was your executive director, you turn this into them. How effective would this be for the organization? And a key part in that is, if you're building on third-party templates or an organizational plan, how much value have you added by customizing the template? So in some cases, we're going to provide a spreadsheet for you. And in that spreadsheet, you could just use the exact template and not customize it to your organization. You're not adding a whole lot of value there, right? So we're going to be looking at, how much are you actually updating the fundraising plan, adding details to it. So the second priority is, how well does this document reflect the student has mastery of the concepts in the course? So if we ask you to write a case for support and you write something that doesn't look like what the course has defined as a case for support, then you're probably not going to get a very good grade. It may be a great document, but we need to know that you have mastery of what are the components of a case for support, as an example. And the third priority is that, and this is really, just, does it look like a professional document? Do you have good accuracy, not a bunch of typos? If your boss looked at this, would they say, you should have proofread this, it's a lot better, or you don't know how to write effectively? So that's the third priority. So let me get into the core of the plan. So there at the top of the plan is a table of contents. Now, every time you update this, you're going to need to right-click on this and then say Update Field, and then update the entire table, and then it's going to update all the numbers. Now, whenever you do that, it's going to put the first page back here, so then you can press, usually it's Control-Enter. Oops, I'm going to put it right here, Control-Enter to put it on the next page. And then each week you're going to be going through and you're going to be adding components. So you'll have a final project, I think every week except for week 3, you're going to have a final project assignment, and it will reference which of these you need to complete. And there will be instructions in here of what you need to complete. So in week 2, you're going to have a constituency map. So you would go through and there's actually a separate document that you can use for that. And then whenever you're done with a section, so say you're working on the core monthly donors and strategies. So here's the instructions. You would follow these instructions, and then after you're done, you're going to delete these instructions, because this should look like a professional document, and a professional document isn't going to have the instructions in it, right? So you're going to go through and fill in all these sections that correspond to the course goals. So you're going to go through and you're going to try to tie the development plan to the organizational mission and strategic plan. Everything needs to tie back to the organizational mission and strategic plan. You're going to create a constituency map. You're going to develop strategies for your core donors, and core generally refers to your regular donors, meaning they're giving at least monthly usually, not necessarily an annual donor. Impulse donors, we'll define that later. New donor strategies, how you do donor research and database management, major donors and planned giving, capital campaigns, foundation, government grants, and corporate donations. And all of that is the first section. And then you get into fundraising activities. So personal and phone/video call solicitation plans and activities, direct mail and non-digital direct response activities, digital fundraising activities, fundraising events, and then the last section is going to be a management and valuation plan. So, what's going to be your staffing plan? If you're in a large organization, this could be fairly complex. What staff are you going to work with? What consultants? If not, you're mainly going to talk about your role, your expenses. What's the role of your board? We have a checklist that's in the appendix that you'll fill out here in the appendix. And then based on that in your interview, you're going to provide recommendations, fundraising projections, and evaluation plan. We have this spreadsheet here that you'll fill out, and you're going to say, here's what our 5-year plan is, and here's how we're going to grow major donors, here's how we're going to do core donors. And what you see here is you see strategies under each of these categories. Some of these strategies may not fit for you. You may not get any corporate donations, so you should delete these rows. And this is an Excel spreadsheet, so you can double click on it if you're in Microsoft Word, and it will be editable. Now, I'll explain later that we have a template for this. Now, there's in all the instructions we explain that this is in the course introduction, but I'll go ahead and show you there. Your week 1 assignment, philosophy or theology of development, you're going to paste here. Your week 2, you're going to paste in your case for support. And then one of the most significant deliverables in the course is going to be this development calendar. And the idea is that all your strategies, you're basically going to list out the calendar for the overall year. Now, where do you get these? You get them from, if you go into the course and then you click on lessons and you go to the course introduction, then here you're going to get these templates. So the final project template here, there's also a spreadsheet template, the letter to the executive directors here. We have a course video playlist. And let me just show you the spreadsheet template. So in some cases, you may have a hard time getting the spreadsheet to work right in Microsoft Word. So in the spreadsheet template, so John Frank was very gracious and he gave us all the spreadsheets that he uses on a practical day-to-day basis. So one of these is this projection summary. The planning calendar, both of those are in your final project template. Now there's others here that are beyond. So this is a report that he recommends using. It ties in with these, your projection. It's going to have the same sort of activities, but this would be a monthly report that you can use. If you have development staff, they would say, here's how many, personal donors that we had. And then here's also, there's other details here, a major donor summary report, a table of gifts that he'll talk about in his presentation, a highly detailed projection. So this is kind of a complement of this projection summary. It's the projection detail. And then a contact report form. If you have some sort of donor management system, you might use these, but your organization may or may not have those. But the idea is if you're tracking a lot of contacts, it'd be helpful to track the notes. So that's the overall summary for the course. If you have questions, please email your faculty, and I hope you get a lot out of this course. So thanks a lot.